come true. Love thy dreams come true.
How's it going? Good to see you again. We have 4 new scents today from the house of Tom Ford. 3 of them are private blends and 1 is from the signature line. So let's get right into it. First one we're going to look at is from the signature line. This is Noir Anthracite. Now, if you're like me, when you first heard of this, your thought was, what in the world is anthracite? I've never heard of that. Well, me too, so that's why I looked it up. Anthracite is a form of coal. So it's a rock mineral substance. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to smell like. Not sure that I've really ever had a desire to smell like coal. But, so it goes. Fortunately, the scent itself doesn't really smell like coal. Or doesn't really smell like a mineral. Minerals don't really smell like anything anyways. Bit of a confusing name, but the scent itself, pretty good. Now this comes in an EDP concentration in this actually really nice, beautiful kind of metallic silver bottle here. Same design as the other Noir bottles. The first thing that's going to jump out at you when you smell this is it smells nothing like the other Noirs. The original, the EDT, the Extreme, even the female version. This one is totally on its own. Could have been its own fragrance with its own name. Honestly, it really doesn't belong in the Noir line. It really should be standing on its own. When you first spray it on, you're going to get a blast of this spicy pepper. And it's backed up by some very dark green notes, a little bit of kind of a heavy woodiness to it. It is definitely a masculine, gentleman kind of scent. So if you're not into that chypre, that not old man smell, it definitely has a modern touch to it. But if you don't like that kind of scent, the one that's spicy, that's peppery, that some people might think smells like an old man scent, this one's probably not for you. It's definitely not a crowd pleaser. It's definitely not one that will break a whole lot of sales records. I think this one, it's a good step for them, and certainly for a signature line fragrance, it's good juice. And it's in the designer game, it's something that we haven't seen too much of, but it's a tough sell, especially for a men's scent, because it's a little bit different. And with a name like this that's such an oddball name, even when you find out what it is, you know, you walk into a store and you say, what the heck is anthracite? And the store associate tells you, oh, it's a form of coal. Does that really turn you on very much? I don't know. But a good scent, I like it. Not the strongest thing in the world from the one time that I worn it. Admittedly, only worn it once, but wore well, didn't project too much. It wasn't weak, but it wasn't terribly strong. So we'll see how it goes, but if that's up your alley, that might be for you. Again, comes in the 50 milliliter, 100 milliliter bottles. This one right here is 100. It'll run you about, I think it's $171 for one of these guys. So pretty pricey for a designer scent. Next up, we have the newest release from the private blend line. This is Oud Minerale. Now, I've had this for a little while, so I've worn it a few times. This one's also weird. It has that mineral thing, so there's a bit of a theme going on here that Tom Ford's going for with this rock, mineral, earthy scent theme. I don't know. Hey, you know, more power to him. It's something a little bit different, something new. And it's not another addition to the damn Neroli Portofino line. This is a very different type of oud scent. You know, I think the best way to do it, let me just read you the notes and some of the reviews that have been listed on Fragrantica for it. So I'm gonna literally take my computer here. The notes. Salt, sea notes, oud, pink pepper, styrax, and seaweed. Let that sink in for you. That's odd. And it smells like that. It is a very salty scent. Like, it literally smells like salt water mixed with some oud. It's not aquatic as we would normally associate aquatic scents. It doesn't smell like fresh water. Doesn't smell like any of those aqua scents by any means. It's nowhere near that. It smells like if you jumped into a saltwater ocean that had a little bit of seaweed floating around in it, and throw some oud on top of that. A bit of a stanky oud too. This is a tough scent to wear, and it's even tougher of a sell than I think that the Noir Anthracite is. So, you know, props to Tom Ford for doing that, for breaking away from the mold, for not releasing a repetitive scent, for not releasing another oud scent that we've seen before 1,000 times. This is definitely in its own category. It's actually an aquatic oud. A lot of other companies have said that they've released those types of scents in the past, but they weren't actually. They ended up being, I'm looking at you, Bond number 9. They've been fresh, ambery, fruity things that might have had some faint resemblance to oud in the background, but really weren't in that marine, truly marine aquatic oud category. This one really is. This review that I'm seeing here on Fragrantica, I can only read it and just let it sink in. I'm indifferent. Previous reviewers compare it to many of the popular designer fragrances, and although I'm not familiar with many of them, I can definitely see that being the case. You're not familiar with the scents, but you can see this being similar to them. Oud Minerale gives me the sense of something generic and crowd-pleasing, layered with a light, pleasant touch of stinky oud. Generic, crowd-pleasing. Now, many of us have been in the game for a while, and if you can show me a generic, crowd-pleasing designer scent that is salty, seaweedy, oudy, and styraxy, please tell me, because I would love to hear it, because I've never heard of one. The closest thing I can think of, and it's listed here on Fragrantica, is Bulgari's Aqua. That one is a bit more like a soury aqua scent. It's not, they're different, but there's some similarities there. But generic and crowd-pleasing, dear Lord, no, that is wrong. Enough of you. That just goes to show you that there's a lot of really good information on the internet about scents, but there's also a lot of garbage, so make sure you form your own decisions, including watching what I'm telling you right now. Form your own decisions on what I'm saying, and don't take everything as gospel. But Oud Minerale, a tough scent to wear. I'm not gonna lie, it's not one that I would recommend blind buying a large portion of. If you can find a decant of it, that's probably going to be your way to go if it's not something that you can go to a store and sample. Again, salty, salt watery, a little bit of green oud. That's something. Not a whole lot of mineral quality to it, I don't think. Again, like I said with the Noir, minerals don't really smell like anything. They don't have a smell, so I'm not sure that's the best name for it, but again, a different scent. Definitely very different interpretation of oud than we've seen before. The next two we're going to go into are intense versions of private blends that have already been released. This will be the first time that he's released something that has an intense label on it. He did do a Neroli Portofino Forte, which is kind of the same thing, but these will have intense tags on them, and they will be for two of the Oud scents, Oud Wood and Tobacco Oud. This is the first I've heard when I found out from my store associate in Boston here. It's the first I'd heard anything about either of these two. There's no literature on the internet about them at all. No note listings, no release dates, no pictures of the bottles, nothing. So all I have are these two little tiny samples that she was kind enough to make for me so I could get a little bit of a sample of it ahead of time. It appears that they will be released in September or October, though that could be sooner. No information on price point or anything like that. But since we have the juice, we can interpret the scent, so let's do it. The first one I'm going to go with is Tobacco Oud Intense. Now, when you first smell this, this is a rush of tobacco. It is as if you took your face and shoved it into a pile of tobacco leaves. And it kind of stays that way. There's definitely a lot of resemblance to the original here, but this is much more heavy into the tobacco. So if you are a fan of raw tobacco leaves, not the same type that you would find in a tobacco vanille, that was a lot sweeter, that was kind of honeyed tobacco, not something like you'd find in a Pure Vin from Mugler, not in that genre. This is a much more raw, dry tobacco leaf. So if you like that, this is definitely something you're going to want to check out. If you liked the original Tobacco Oud, you're definitely going to want to check this out. From my impression of it, it was not as, well, I shouldn't say it wasn't as strong as the original, because it was a little bit stronger. But this one, as well as the Oud Wood Intense, really aren't longevity bombs from what I experienced with them, which admittedly is pretty limited at this point. But even smelling it both on a card and wearing them both one, you know, I wore the Tobacco Oud Intense to work today actually, and it was a pretty, not mellow scent, but kind of flatlined a little bit. That being said, the scent itself, and I think this is where it gets the Intense name, is a very full and rich scent. There's a lot to it. It's not as simple as the original. The same goes for the Oud Wood. When you put it on, you get that feeling of there's a lot to this. It's like eating into a very rich piece of chocolate cake. That kind of feeling. But it also doesn't, I don't want to say, it's not weak. It's not like it died on my skin in 3 hours. But many people see the word intense on a fragrance and they immediately think, oh my god, this is going to last forever. So as far as I know that this is an EDP concentration, it does not appear that this is an extrait. So longevity wise, if that's your thing, don't expect a nuclear bomb out of this. But a really good scent, much more skewing to the tobacco side of the scent than to the oud. A very raw, dry tobacco there. Moving along to the one that probably most people are going to be interested in, that's Oud Wood Intense. Oud Wood is one of the most popular private blends. It has been since it was released. But a lot of people in the past have had some issues with its longevity. So an Oud Wood Intense scent is very welcome. A lot of people are going to be jumping at this one. Unfortunately, again, like the Tobacco Oud Intense, I don't know that this is going to cure all of your longevity ills. It's better, it's an improvement for sure, but I don't think that this is going to be something that's going to be sitting on your skin for 12 to 24 hours and filling up an entire room. Sorry. Now, as far as the scent itself goes, it's a little bit different from Oud Wood. It's not the same thing, whereas the tobacco was very similar, bordering on redundant. The Oud Wood is not. There's something different to it, and in the couple of days that I've had this, I've been trying to put my finger on it, and to be honest with you, I can't. I don't know exactly what it is that's different, and it's kind of bugging me. But there's something, I don't know if they use a different kind of oud in this one. That could be it. There's something that almost comes off, I don't want to say it comes off floral, because it's not. There's nothing floral in there. There's something in there. I don't know what it is, but it's a little bit different. It veers off to the side of the original release a little bit, but I think in a good way. It complements the other one very well so that you can own both of them and not think, well, gee, I just have two of the same thing here. So I need to give this a little bit more wearing, a little bit more experience to get my finger on it. But so far I like it. I like both of them. In fact, in a lot of ways I like all four of these. I think it's a nice direction for Tom Ford to move in, to move away from releasing generic crowd pleasers like this clown was talking about on here. A lot of the scents that he had been releasing to the private blend line had fallen into that category. The endless releases of Neroli Portofino flankers and things in that line, while they've been good, they've been very ordinary, mundane. Some of the other private blends have just been really underwhelming and end up getting discontinued after a short period of time. To move back into that category of releasing scents that are different, new interpretations of a note that go into categories that we haven't really approached before, that's a really good direction for the house, and in that respect, I'm really happy to see that. If you have any questions about any of them, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Unfortunately, I do not have any decants available for sale of the Mineral or the Anthracite, but keep an eye out. I'm sure somebody will pretty soon. And as soon as I find out about the release dates and the pricing information for the Oud Wood and Tobacco Oud Intense, I will do my best to get that information out there and hopefully run a couple of splits of them. All right? Thanks a lot for watching. He will be releasing... That's the wrong way to describe it.